Well,
some
it just so
story
happens that
or
all of the bands I have lined up are bands I know, friends of mine in town. So that's gonna be a way of doing that.
I want a story about you eating curly fries after a concert.
Okay, great.
Oh wait, we got.
Do all your friends have Twitter handles?
Mm-hmm.
Tweet at them during the show.
Welcome, my friends, neighbors, family members, acquaintances, misconnections, casual encounters, idols, mentors, lackeys, minions, to the Free Radicals podcast, where I am James Poulos. This is a hashtag Productions production, and that was Q on Q, with a song spelled HYP. Available for your listening pleasure on the YouTube. Q on Q, the brainchild of one of my oldest friends, longest running friends, you could say, Benjamin Haywood of Los Angeles. So if you, too, are of Los Angeles or just passing through, you can see Q on Q live and in concert. And let me tell you, if you like the 90s or loud noises or rocking, you will like their show. As I hope that you will like this show. We've got some fun things in store, like what's wrong with science and why do people still care about communism. So let's dive in. Occasionally I read the Drudge Report. I used to not read the Drudge Report. And then before that, I used to read it a lot. So I'm dipping a toe back in to the water. And occasionally you find some fascinating little fish swimming around the Drudge Report. Weird Matt Drudge is far and away the best Matt Drudge, and that is why right now I want to talk to you about researchers in Sweden who say that dogs like to solve problems, just like human beings. This is coming to you from the Daily Mail. And if you have not heard the Radiohead song, The Daily Mail, from several years ago, it's a nice listen, because after all, weird Radiohead is pretty good. But weird loud Radiohead is the best. And the song The Daily Mail gets off to a slow, or should I say slow burning start, but then it really picks up. The research in question here was carried out by doctors from the University of Agricultural Sciences in Sweden, using six matched pairs of beagles, matched pairs of beagles. Good heavens. Anyway, here's what they discovered. They discovered that the experimental dogs, according now, were only given access to a treat on a ramp when they successfully manipulated certain pieces of equipment that they were trained to use. The control dogs were given access to the reward when their partner dogs solved the puzzle, without any respect to how they used the equipment themselves. The researchers found the experimental dogs were much more excited to actually get in the arena and solve the pieces of equipment. The control dogs, by contrast, were reluctant to go in and pick up their treat without having to solve any of the puzzles. This, according to the researchers, shows that the dogs enjoy problem solving just like humans do. In humans, says the Daily Mail report, The eureka moment is a commonly known feeling that occurs when we solve a particularly troubling problem. Well, that's one way of interpreting what's going on, but here's another way. Another way is to say that the eureka moment isn't a feeling that occurs when we solve a difficult problem. The eureka moment is the experience of solving a particularly troubling problem. It's not like you solve the hard problem and then there's a beat and then the light goes on over your head and you say, wow, that was really gratifying to solve that difficult problem. It's like the same experience. It's like, I don't even know, man, because it's more than science can explain. Look, I don't want to get too anti-science. I mean, science can be useful, but science has this habit of separating. It wants causes and effects to be everywhere, and it doesn't like the idea that there are some things that can't be parsed out into cause and effect. And I think that confuses us. I mean, why should we have to understand feeling good about solving a problem as something separate from solving the problem? I mean, the less like a science experiment a problem is, and the less like a science experiment solving a problem is, the more obvious it is that science can't fully apprehend what happens when a problem is solved. Imagine, for instance, that something has been bothering you in your life for 15 years. And then one day you wake up and you realize you're not burdened by that thing anymore. Or imagine that you've been working on a problematic situation in your life for 5 years. And then you finally do something that causes the problem to disappear after all this time. Maybe it's finally paying off a debt. Maybe it's finally writing a song that you think is going to be a hit, and it turns out to actually be a hit. Maybe it's a behavioral issue that's driving you a little bit crazy with your child. And after telling your child to think of it in a certain way, or to refrain from doing something in particular, or to be more aware of something, you tell them again, because why not? Why not just tell them again, again, again? Why not? What's one more time? And it actually works. It actually sinks in. Those are eureka moments. And I would submit to you that the little euphoria that you experience is so tied up with the quote-unquote solution of the quote-unquote problem that we're really missing out on something important about the experience of being human when we separate them into two distinct phenomena. Once upon a time, scientists were more exposed to the humanities than scientists, I think, often are today. At least the super brilliant scientists. Again, I don't have a study in front of me right now. But I think my hunch here is correct, which is the further that science is hived off from the humanities as a separate, hermetically sealed, complete, self-enclosed, self-sufficient field of human endeavor in people's minds anyway, the harder it will be for scientists to think in this way about how to approach the conduct of science. And the more that becomes true, well, then the more it becomes true that it really will be sort of like this adversarial relationship between humane letters and scientific study. That would be bad. That would be bad. I could go on, but I think you can too. So I'll just I will let you do that. And now we will listen to some more music. Everything I'm going to play for you today is by a band here in LA, a band that you should get to know. Coming up here, we have a band called the Herms. The song is Power Joystick. It is out on Castleface Records. Matt of the Herms used to do music a while ago, and then he got into writing, sort of screenwriting, and he sort of let music go. And it required someone, a friend of his, to say, dude, what are you doing right now with music? Are you nothing? Like, what about those songs that you made? And, his reply is like, I don't know, man, it kind of wasn't happening. And then I didn't know if I was really like, I don't know if it was moving me. So I started to do this writing thing, and writing thing's been going pretty well. So I don't know. And sometimes it takes a friend to push you to do something that on your own you just, I don't know. I mean, who are you to say, really, what's worth your time? You can make some educated guesses. And sometimes, inspiration really does strike. Sometimes you have a clear mission at a certain moment in your life. But sometimes it's up for debate. Sometimes the signals are not clear. And that's one of those times when a friend can really be a friend. So Matt of the Herms says, all right, okay, fine. I'll revisit this stuff and we'll just see. And now he has this band together, and now they have their music out, and they're recording more, and they're different. They are different and good, and I think you will be interested. So with no further ado, this is the Herms on the Free Radicals podcast. And we're back on the Free Radicals podcast, a hashtag productions production.
Can we do that again?
What? Can we do what again?
That little intro. Sorry.
And we're back on the Free Radicals podcast. Coming at you, not live. What's the opposite of live? Coming at you, tape delayed from the new hashtag production studios in scenic Venice, California, where in the restroom, the scent of the hand soap is midnight vanilla. Don't you wish your hand soap was midnight vanilla? Yeah. I almost stayed in that restroom. It was like aromatherapy. Light some candles. Relax. Stretch out in front of the fire. Dab some midnight vanilla on your neck and listen to the Free Radicals podcast, where we will segue seamlessly into talking about communism. This is also via Drudge. The Independent, another UK publication, if you can still call it the United Kingdom, before Scotland hives off. The Independent. Headline: Young Russians yearn for the glory days of the Soviet Union, despite not having experienced it. Subhead: Tales of standing toe-to-toe with the United States have been handed down by nostalgic parents. Now, I could actually read this article, but as Hunter Thompson once counseled, the purpose of a good headline is to make it unnecessary to read the article. And here, the British press has done it. So we've already got, frankly, over an hour of material just in those two headlines. I'll try to condense it down to 10 minutes for you. Okay, so number one, we've got young people yearning, which is always a nice sign in an age when young people supposedly are just afraid and incompetent and they feel like they have no resources and they're moving back in with their parents because they can't handle getting a job that isn't as good as their education was. Yearning, young Russians. Okay, what are they yearning for? They're not yearning for the new iPhone either. They are yearning for glory days of the Soviet Union. I know, I don't yearn for the glory days of the Soviet Union. You probably don't yearn for the glory days of the Soviet Union. It's not even evident what the glory days of the Soviet Union were. They weren't 1918. They weren't the early 20s. They weren't the 30s or the 40s. The 50s? Is that the glory days of the Soviet Union? I mean, the 80s were not particularly kind to the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union hardly even lived to see the 90s. The 70s were a horrible time for everyone. Except, Swiss professional bicyclists, I think, had a good decade in the 70s. And in the 60s, the Soviet Union almost destroyed humanity. So when were the glory days? I don't know. And furthermore, it is not on me to have to provide an answer to that question. And it is troubling to think that a rising generation in a country like Russia yearns for a fantasy, a political fantasy. That's not great news. But here is what's important news. That large numbers of young people somewhere outside the United States should actually feel a powerful, moving, and inspiring connection to their own political history. Because when you hear all the horrible things about how young people in Europe have basically fallen into complete decadence and cultural exhaustion, what it is that that seems like an unattainable alternative to that decline is exactly what is happening on at least some level in Russia. So, so ask yourself, why isn't the headline, "Young Europeans yearn for the glory days of Europe despite not having experienced them"? Maybe things in Europe just don't suck enough yet. Or maybe the generations just aren't turning over fast enough yet. I don't know what it is. But I do think that What's happening to Russia's young people today is likely to happen to Europe's young people soon. Here's the difference, though. Russia has nationalism now. And even though these young Russians are yearning for the Soviet Union, I don't think they're yearning to dissolve their Russian identity into the Eurasian Union, for instance. Whereas, some young Europeans are like, glory days of Denmark. No, not an option for nostalgia. Certainly young Germans are not going to yearn for the glory days of Germany for a while. But the young people of France might. That's where I'd put my money. Tales of standing toe-to-toe with the United States have been handed down by nostalgic parents in Russia, land of, shockingly, depressingly high abortion rates, land of premature alcohol-fueled death. Parents are actually inspiring their children to get excited about the future because of their own country's political history. That, my friends, is the sort of thing that you don't expect to happen in the old world anymore. At least not in the parts of the old world where there are, let's just be honest about it, white people. Supposedly, the white people of the old world are tired of history. They can't be inspired. They just want to glide off into the post-historical sunset. Well, I've got news for you. It's not going to happen. This is a historical blip. Post-historicity is a phase. And some of that's, I think, good news. For those of you who don't want Europe to be a ward of the state, our nation state, for another 50 years. But for those of you who are worried about neo-nationalist Russians making dangerous mistakes in their neighborhood, yes, be concerned. And that's what I learned from the Drudge Report today. We've got some tweets here. I was talking earlier about when a friend can be a friend. When you have those moments in your life when you're sort of like, I don't know what to do, what I really have, who I really am. Do I abandon this project? Is this really me? Am I going out with the right person? Sometimes it takes a friend to just sort of bump you onto a path. It's a good habit to be into, to be able to bump yourself onto a path when you encounter those moments of aporia, as the ancient Greeks would say. But there are friends, and then there are friends. And so when I read Joe Steinbrunn here tweeting me about the friendsgivingization of the upper middle class, he says, in the absence of families, what social structures will substitute as a communal unit? Well, yeah, I mean, it would be great if we could turn to friend networks for communal units in the absence of families. But, the same forces that are unraveling the family are the same forces that are unraveling close friendship units. Now we have networks of friends. And, there needs to be some way of talking about what's going on here that doesn't just immediately decay into the sort of story that we've heard so many times, in good faith oftentimes, but we've heard this tale, this narrative in the wake of people like Robert Putnam coming along saying, "Oh, Americans are isolated and alone. Social fabric's coming apart. We need people should go bird watching together. They should join a bowling league." And it's like, that's not friendship in the way it has long been understood. Friendship in a deep and abiding way, in a way that would even begin to substitute for other important relationships collapsing or fading or becoming contingent. Those kinds of friendships are not forged by bowling. Even at the height of the bowling thing in the 50s, where do you think those bowling leagues came from? They came from a generation who fought and died together around the world over a period of 4 mind-blowing years. And a generation who spent day in and day out together in factories, shoulder to shoulder, making stuff. Their bowling leagues didn't make them friends. Not on a society-wide scale. The phenomenon there shouldn't point us to, the idea that the social fabric can be mended again if people just hang out more often. You go through experiences with people, and the experiences make oftentimes an unchosen, powerful impact on your life, which oftentimes is never really the same afterwards. That's kind of the crucible of friendship. If many young people had friends like that, then yeah, bring on the friendsgivingization of the upper middle class. Because you know what comes out of friendships like that? Communities, marriages, children. Friendships that sometimes last longer than marriages or even the lifetime of one's own children. Friendships that can withstand change and withstand tragedy. When you have networks creating quote-unquote friendships, I don't want to say that these friendships are destined to be weaker, because they're not. But there's something about the structure of networked relationships that makes it more likely that friends will cycle in and cycle out than it is when the structure of friendships is made in the crucible of friendship. Yeah, there are nodes in networks, so structurally there are some places, some circumstances when even friends formed in a network structures could have that kind of deep character that friendships formed in the crucible of friendship could have. My experience doesn't really work that way. So even close friendships formed in network structures, people just change their place in the network and the bond weakens. Now, in the old days, when you have a close friend who moved away or whatever, they're gone, man. You had to write them a letter. Or you had to pay for long distance. You couldn't carry on intense formal friendships in a casual way, long distance. Now you can do that even with near strangers. And that, that has its advantages, but it also has its profound limitations too. So, even more than the question of oh, are you worried that families are being replaced by friends. I would say, like, what do you mean by friends? Because if they're real friends, if there's friendship that's going to last, I'm not super worried. Because where do you think families come from? Anyway, let's listen to another song. This is a band called Vum, I think. It might be called Voom, but I think it's Vum. V-U-M. Vum is an LA band you should get to know. They are playing next at La Cita, which is having their 8-year anniversary down in downtown LA. This is a venerable dance club for this is like an old Mexican American joint, which now oftentimes has bands playing music that sounds more like what I'm about to play for you. Saw Vum at the Echo a while back, and it's pretty transfixing stuff. So rather than just jabbering on about it, I will play it for you. This song is called Hall of Mirrors. You are listening to the Free Radicals podcast, and I am Captain Free Radical himself, James Poulos. This is a Hashtag Productions production. Let's listen to Vum.
Awesome.
How we doing?
Interview segment is going to come up next.
Great. Which I should have said, but I didn't.
It's all good.
And we're back. Gotta shake you out of your mesmerized torpor there, listening to the beautiful and evocative sounds of Vum. I'm going to play you a song. This song is not by an LA band. This song is by one of my favorite bands, one of my favorite new bands. You've heard me talk about them before. Their name is Chvches, spelled with a V, because music is SEO, my friends. This is my favorite song by Chvches. I've never played it before. I have not even memorized it. So I'm going to dive in here and see if it sounds good. And if it doesn't, I'm going to start over. And you will not know that I started over. And that's the beauty of podcasting. This song is called Strong Hand. It is a bonus song off of their debut LP, The Bones of What You Believe. And in fact, that title, The Bones of What You Believe, comes from this song. There's no official video for it. There's a fan video, which is footage of one of those amazing aerobics championships from the 80s. If you know what I'm talking about already, you know how awesome this is. And if you do not know how awesome it is because you don't know what I'm talking about, go check it out. Whether it's the video for the song or more expansively some of the other wonderful madness that you can find in that realm. It's good stuff, and it's a reminder of, I mean, today people can watch this stuff and they can just so easily laugh at what idiots people from the 80s look like, and look at them, they're smiling, and they don't even, care what they look like, and I'm like, yeah, it was awesome. The 80s was like the last naive decade. Will it be the last naive decade of all time? Probably not. But we're due. We're due for more naivety. Actually, you know what? Scratch that. It's innocence, really, that I'm talking about. Simple innocence. When are we going to have a renaissance of innocence? That's going to be the name of the first single off of my new Midnight Vanilla side project. Innocence Renaissance. Yes. Okay, I'm going to press pause on this thing and set up to play this song, and then you're going to hear it, and hopefully it'll be good. Thank you for listening to the Free Radicals podcast. I have been James Poulos. This has been a Hashtag Productions production. Love is waiting, as the tagline goes. And I'll talk to you next time.
Awesome. Just let it run.
Maybe they'll save you from me. This'll work. See the...
Sounds good here. Good stuff, Mr. Poulos.
D, E, A, B minor. All right.
Ready when you are.
Win or lose it this time. Gah. Final cut. Last time. Are you ready? Outtakes are awesome.
Do you mind if I put up the video of this?
Not the whole thing. Okay. Why don't... Why? Okay. Why don't you tell me? What do you need? There's a blank page for you. Give me the bones of what you believe. Maybe they'll save you from me. I'll be the strong hand keeping you safe. Or will I break you in half, and you will never be under my thumb, but you are not your
never die for what you kill for. Slowly I will grind you into the ground if you should try to hold me. See the way we all run, we know it all by heart. Play down, waiting all out, win or lose it this time. When the pressure's building for a great white hope to give up things that you love, and the pressure